So wait, this is modern soft Kevlar. And you want to test it against a sharp rock. Not just any rock, a very, very sharp rock. If it worked for early man against a buffalo or a bear, it can work for me. All right, well, let's start the fun. Welcome back, everyone. I am home stateside again. I got back home from Greece, described as one of the best, most memorable experiences of my life. But I am happy to be home because really I can only be away from my family for such a short time before I really start to miss them dramatically. But I am here now and I got some new test ideas we're going to run through today. And today is going to be how old school can we get against modern tech. To begin, let's get right into the fun. What I'm going to use today as the basic starting point for these tests is going to be this 3A Kevlar here. So this is stab resistant, slash resistant, bullet proof up to like, you know, certain caliber. So it's not really made for slashes. I'm going to do a couple tests here just to kind of show you where the limits are. I'm going to bring out the sword and bring out the bow and see how it does, just to kind of show you that it's not going to work against everything. It's made for low mass, high speed projectiles. But I want to go back as old school as we can and see how it does against Obsidian. Now, for those of you who are not aware of what Obsidian is, it is basically just a sharpened rock. This is one of mankind's oldest tools. So I'm going to use it and pair it with the Atlatl, basically the second of mankind's oldest tools. There was the Woombara in Australia, which does kind of predate this, and this is a much more modern Atlatl, but the concept is going to be the same, where you're going to be having a lighter projectile with a rock tip on it. And I want to test it against the Kevlar to see how that does, just to kind of see if something like this, which isn't traveling at a really high velocity, but it has extra mass and has a sharpened rock tip, how that's going to do. Before I get into it, I want to thank my friend Crafts of the Past. He actually made these for me. He made me some arrowheads and a spearhead as well. I'm going to fix those to different items and test those as well against multiple things, maybe chainmail down the road, things like that. I'm just excited to get out here and experiment and thought experiment a couple different things. Before we get too far into the woods, I know I've done a video with that Atlatl in the past, but for those of you who may have missed it, what an Atlatl is, it's a way in which to increase the throwing capacity of a projectile by basically increasing the length of your arm in simplified terms. The way it works is going to clip in just like here. You're going to hold it and you're going to grip it right in there. To get the hand placement set, you're going to turn. And you release it just like that. So again, what it's doing is it's moving and increasing that length, so you're getting more power, more push, and you can throw something further. So again, you're gonna be standing here just like this. You get your grip just right, and you're gonna throw it like that. So that's gonna be how the projectile works, and it's gonna be a much faster release than you would be able to do just manually on your own. Also a lot more efficient, less muscles used, and it's just gonna be a better tool for the job. Now, before we go into the meat of it, which is the Atlatl, I want to do some other tests just to kind of show you what it does work for and doesn't work for. I know Kentucky Ballistics did one. He had trouble punching through with a sword. So I'm going to show you how this one does against it. And then from there, we're going to go with a spear, see how that does, and then we'll finish off with the Atlatl. And then if that doesn't work, then we'll go ahead and we'll bring out the war bow, just because you got to get through it at some point, right? All right, I'm gonna set that a little differently because that obviously did not work. I'm gonna put it on the hay bale there. That'll keep it a little more of a solid impact so it's not gonna fall over. All right, so that made it through a little bit, but I just realized that the tip of my sword here really needs to be sharpened. So you can see it bent over a little like this. That must have been from my previous test. I didn't notice that. So that needs to get fixed, but it still made it through the back of it there, just not as impressively as it probably would have. Next, I want to bring out a spear, and we're going to huck a spear at this thing just to kind of see how it does against that. All right, so unfortunately it's kind of hard to see where it went into it. So I'm gonna do one just like as a really hard thrust so we can kind of see how that works with it just kind of in something you can actually visualize. Alright, so those actually went in. One of them kind of went out the back, the other one did not. So you can see that this is not like some slouch, right? So it'll give us a good idea that when we're testing the Atlatl against it, there's actually gonna be some substance behind it. A lot of people say, oh, it'll, you know, anything that's stabbing will go straight through it, but that's not the case. It's gotta be really sharp, really rigid for it to work. So let's go ahead to the pièce de résistance and see how that goes. Okay, so there's our crash course with the Atlatl. Now what I want to do is take the Obsidian tips and I'm going to test it against the Kevlar body armor. Again, I'm well aware it's not designed for cuts and slashes, but I want to see how it does against something that's old school, basically early man old school. Apologize, the mic I had here just broke, so there's going to be some wind coming in, but I think I'll be able to get some good video regardless, because, you know, no one really wants to see me talk anyways. It's all about the destruction at hand. So let's go ahead and take some shots. Okay, so that was a little low. I can see here it clipped the bottom of it. So I'm gonna set the camera now closer to get a slow-mo and see how that works. Alright, so it did really well. The second shot right here was the best. And this one right here, I can feel it cut into it just a little bit. So this was the best. So this was the best one right here. I can see it cut into it a little bit in that spot. It almost went through all the layers, but it didn't go all the way through. I can feel it. However, the problem is that after the first hit, I actually, because it's rock, obviously it's fragile, this piece right here, the sharp part broke off, and so that kind of caused a little bit of a problem. It didn't penetrate as well as I feel like it could have, because it lost that sharpest point. And then also, just because I'm curious, let's see how it does against a steel shield, just because, why not? Now, as for the steel shield, of course, I can't even see really where it hit, honestly. You can see it broke off the tip right in here. So obviously when you have something that's stone against something that's steel, it's just gonna shatter like that. However, no stone unturned, no pun intended, actually pun intended, but it was a terrible pun, so I apologize for that. All right, so you may think this bow looks a little bit different. Well, that's because it is. And this, as far as I'm concerned, is akin to owning a piece of history. This was made by Joe Gibbs. If you're not familiar with Joe Gibbs, he's the archer on Todd's Workshop. One of the strongest archers I've ever seen in my life. Just an absolute beast of a man. So this is one he made for me. It wasn't like free or anything. This is 120 pounds at 30, so not on the heavier side of what I have, but it's a laminate bow and a flat bow. So I want to bust this thing out against the Kevlar just to kind of show how it does. You know, this is gonna be in line with the war bows. It shoots a little bit faster. And in addition to that, you gotta string this one by yourself because it doesn't work for a bow stringer. So I'm gonna show you kind of how I do that with this bow here. So you start to bend it back, just like that. So that's how you string a more traditional bow. This is one I can actually do because it's not like 160 pounds, but here it is, flat bow against soft Kevlar, just for funsies. First test here, I'm gonna be using a bodkin tip. This one's a little bit dull. You can see it's not as sharp as it once was. So let's see if just being a little bit dull will make a bit of a difference. Okay, so the next one, we're gonna use a slightly sharper one. So this one's more of a tapered point, not a fine pencil tip, but it's definitely sharper. All right, so that one you can easily see it went through with no problem. And look at that. I mean, even the tip of that, that's not a very sharp point. That's really like a blocky pyramid. And so even that, just no problem at all. The other one was kind of bent in a little bit. So piece of cake. And then since we're out here, why don't, oh, that's another one. Oh, this is a really sharp one. This one's way better. I should use this one. Oopsie. All right. Well, let's do it just for fun. So that one you can obviously see as well was much better. It went into the hay bale behind it as well. So that was just, you know, a better tip, everything. But more than anything, oh, dang it. More than anything, I just want to show off that I got a bow from Joe Gibbs. He is a personal hero of mine. A lot of people like LeBron or sports stars, but for me, it's Joe Gibbs. He's just super cool, so strong, crazy. You have it. The Obsidian had a bit of a hard time with the Kevlar. Now, the big thing for me that I want to see is, again, the Atlatl is amazing, but it's not traveling at the same velocity as a bow. So I have some arrowheads as well. I'm going to try to fix those to an arrowhead and see how that does against the Kevlar, because I really want to see if that brittle sharp point will actually make it through or if it's going to break upon impact. I also have a spear as well. I'm going to fix that to the to some wood to try and see how that does. So super fun. It is good to be back home, guys, truthfully. I cannot tell you how much I miss the family and being home and how happy I am to be back. But always fun to get out here and play with some toys, ancient weaponry and such. So that Atlatl did well. Tips, unfortunately, were the weak point, I feel. So it was just so brittle. It just kind of broke. And in addition to that, my little mic broke and my tripod broke. I honestly don't know if I can stress enough how low budget this channel is. My tripod is like a $15 tripod that's just been through the ringer over and over. And I'm just seeing how far I can take this on a shoestring budget. So far, it's been a blast. However, lastly and most importantly, this video is a special thanks to Joe Gibbs. I truly cannot express how thrilled I am to have a bow from him. The great thing about flat bows as well is they don't lose draw weight over time like the wood bows do. Whoa, what the heck happened here? These kind of bows, the flat bows that, oh geez, all my arrows are broken. This is broken too. Gosh dang it. Best thing about flat bows like this that are laminate is they last for a long time. They don't lose draw weight as you use them, so they're great for continued training. And they are fast. Like, no joke, these things fly out the gate. So I'm excited to test and see. I'm gonna do some recording of it to see how it does speed-wise versus the other bows that I have, and then also distance-wise, stuff like that. But wow, I love it. Thanks, Joe, you're the man.